Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Our webinar will begin in just a few minutes. While you're waiting, you can review our program information at csudh.edu/ms-RIS. We'll start in just a few minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the information session for graduate programs in Radiologic and Imaging Sciences at California State University, Dominguez Hills. My name is Keith Otterberg, and I'll be your host. I'm the Director of Marketing for the College of Extended and International Education at Dominguez Hills. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website and on social media platforms shortly after today's session. To begin, feel free to download the Master of Science in Radiologic and Imaging Sciences information kit for details about the program and additional resources that will be covered in the webinar. The address is bit.ly/CSUDH-msris-info kit. We have provided a link in the chat for those who are participating live, and it will also be available via a follow-up email that's sent to attendees as well as on our website. Before we start, just a quick reminder about Zoom controls. This session is being presented in webinar format, so you won't need to worry about connecting your microphone or camera. But we want you to participate, so please help us address your needs by using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen if you are joining us from the Zoom desktop app or web browser, or at the top right of your screen if you are on a mobile device. Please ask your questions in the Q&A panel rather than in the chat panel, because in the chat panel, we will be providing helpful links and other information. Once you click the Q&A button, a dialog box will open allowing you to type your question. Our marketing staff members, Stephanie Bukian and Anisan Barton Thompson, will be available to assist. We'll be answering those questions at the end of the session. However, you may find that the question you have has been answered during the course of the presentation. With that said, let's take a quick look at today's agenda. We'll start by meeting Dr. Elwin Tilson, the Program Coordinator and Professor of Radiologic and Imaging Sciences at Dominguez Hills, and he's going to discuss the current professional outlook and introduce you to the program by an overview of benefits, expectations, and course details. Then we'll go over how to apply and address your questions in our Q&A session at the end. We'll also have a survey at the end of the webinar, and we'd love to get your feedback so we can make future presentations even better. Also, if you're on social media, please use the hashtag CSUDH Extended Ed or tag us at CSUDH Extended Ed. So let's begin. Dr. Tilson, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Keith, and good evening to everybody. My name is Elwin Tilson, and as Keith said, I am the coordinator and for Radiologic and Imaging Sciences at Dominguez Hills. I want to just tell you a little bit about the two primary faculty that are full-time in the program. Obviously, I'm one of them, and I'm a relatively well-known educator in the field. I've been around a long time, and I've done an awful lot of stuff over the years. I have been a radiographer since 1969, and I've been a full-time faculty member since 1978. For those of you who are quick with math, you will realize that that's quite a long time. I have decades of experience. Wait, we seem to be having a problem with the video. I'm sorry.
You're good to go now, Dr. Tilson. Go ahead.
Okay, I don't know what that was all about. Okay, technology, when it works, you know. But anyway, I have decades of clinical experience also, because even though I've been a faculty member, I used to practice between 2 and 4 days a month, mostly in trauma centers and particularly in trauma CT. I have a very extensive history of professional involvement. I've been on numerous boards of directors. I've been an editor of a journal. I've been a president of an organization. I've published about 75 articles and about 75 professional presentations and 2 books. And on the academic side, I've been a program director, I've been a department chair, I've been a coordinator, and I've been a dean of faculty. Dr. Gary Syed is the other full-time faculty that we have, and Dr. Syed has his roots in nuclear medicine and in radiation physics. Dr. Syed has an interesting distinction. First of all, he has 2 different doctoral degrees. I think he didn't quite learn his lessons the first time, but he has 2 doctoral degrees, and Dr. Syed is a Fulbright scholar. And if you're not familiar with the idea of a Fulbright scholar, it is sort of like winning a Grammy Award. It's very rare, it's very prestigious, and that's the kind of guy he is. So he has also a very extensive publication and presentation background, and he has served on so many boards and so many organizations that it almost cannot be listed. There's so many. One of the things that you need to understand is that Dr. Syed and I are both dedicated professionals. We really care a lot about this profession, and we're very student-centered, and we're very student success focused. Because the way we see it is that we're working with fellow professionals. We just got here before you did, and we're offering you something to help you move up in the profession. So that is really what the whole thing about is, as far as we're concerned, is us being helpful to the profession as a whole. We also have a number of part-time faculty. And these are individuals who have specializations in management, education, accreditation, and areas like that. And they will be teaching some of the courses. Excuse me. The term radiologic and imaging sciences may not be familiar to everybody, because most practitioners in our profession really only describe their discipline within the profession. So they'll call themselves a dosimetrist or a radiographer or a sonographer, as opposed to thinking about the much larger discipline of radiologic and imaging sciences. Radiologic and Imaging Sciences, or RIS as we call it, is defined as all the medical imaging and radiation oncology disciplines. And that includes such disciplines as radiography, sonography, radiation therapy, MRI, nuclear medicine, dosimetry, cardiovascular, and PACS administration, to name a few. And this degree is for anybody in any of those disciplines who wants to advance in the profession, because This degree is all about producing the leaders for the profession for tomorrow. The other thing it is designed to do is it's designed to increase the professional value that you have to employers and help you move on into the future. The profession as a whole is moving away from the idea of advancing and promoting technically focused professionals to one where we look at staff with specialized educational backgrounds. That's a trend that we see across the board. And that's because, in part, institutions feel like a degree is a gatekeeper. And when you have the right degree, it shows that you have demonstrated value to the institution. To give you a few examples of the types of things that we see is if you are an educator and you want to be a program director, a master's degree is required in several of the disciplines, and it's highly desirable in all the other disciplines. And I predict that it's not going to be very long before it's required in all the disciplines. On the management side, one of the things that we have found is that recently we did a study and we looked at all of the director of radiology and all the variations on that title, job ads in the state of California. 50% of them required a master's degree to apply for the position. So you can see that it really is quickly moving to the point where a graduate degree is essential. The degree is designed to produce the leaders for the profession for tomorrow. One of the things that all of us in professional life do is that we mentor those who come behind us to take over the profession, and that's what this degree is designed to do. Now, it gives you skills that you can walk out the door with and use in your professional life immediately. But ultimately, it's designed to produce the leaders of the profession for tomorrow. This is an interprofessional degree, and with other imaging and therapy professionals, we have an emphasis in this degree on a broad-based knowledge of all the disciplines in radiologic and imaging sciences, plus a specialization track in either RIS Education or RIS Management. The degree itself is 100% online. What that means is you don't have to get in the car and schlep down to the campus to sit in a classroom. That's not going to happen. Everything is done through the computer. Now, most of our classes are asynchronous. Now, what that means is that you rarely are required to be in a classroom, say Tuesday night at 7 p.m. That rarely ever happens. The courses are designed in a way that you log in, you interact with students who were there before on discussion boards and stuff like that. There are optional synchronous class meetings that happen on a weekly basis, and students have told us that they're very helpful. They both do two things. One is that they build camaraderie between the students in the program, and the other is that it helps the students stay focused and get through the program very successfully. Now, this program is an executive style program, which means that if you go full time, you're done in 12 months. Now, in order to do 12 months, you're going to typically do between 8 and 12 hours of work a week with reading, discussions, projects, evaluations, and things like that. And occasionally, on a really busy week, you may have to put more time than that in. But that's what the program looks like. So let's talk about the admission requirements. Actually, they're pretty simple. The admission requirements are that you have to have a baccalaureate degree in any discipline. It doesn't matter what the discipline is. You can have a baccalaureate degree in Peruvian underwater basket weaving, and it would still get you into the program as long as the degree is from a regionally accredited institution, such as SACS or the accrediting agency that does programs in California. What the one group of people that have a problem where they've gone to a university that had a national accreditation process, and most universities in the country do not believe that those accreditation standards are high enough, so they won't accept students from that. You also have to have an undergraduate GPA of 2.5 or higher, which is pretty reasonable. And then you have to hold a national certification in one of the RIS disciplines. So you either have to be an RTR, RTT, RTN, clinical nuclear medicine, registered sonographer, the RVT, MRI, and PACS administration. Any of the ones that are any of the certification in those areas will suffice. Or if you don't have one of those, but you have a state or national license in one of those areas, radiography, sonography, MRI, radiation therapy, vascular technology, dosimetry, or PACS, then you're eligible to be admitted into the program. At Dominguez Hills, we also have a postgraduate certificate program. And the postgraduate certificate program, we have two of them, and they're both 12 units long. A unit is the same as a semester hour. And those two certificates are a certificate in RIS Management and a certificate in RSI Education. The certificate is basically designed for individuals who either have a master's degree, but they want additional skill sets, or individuals who don't want to do a full master's right now, but want the skill sets. What it doesn't give you are the additional skills in research and in understanding the broader discipline. All of the courses in the certificate program will transfer, are also in the master's degree program. So the courses are exactly identical, and individuals who are taking the certificate or sit in the very same classes as the people in the specialty areas as the people in the master's degree. The certificate program is not a gateway into the master's degree because the admission criteria for the certificate program is identical to the admission criteria for the certificate program. So if you're interested in getting the master's degree, you need to apply to the master's degree, not the certificate. That is for individuals who either do or have a master's and want additional skills, or don't yet have a master's but only want that skill set. So let's look at the courses and tracks that we have in the curriculum. There are three large areas, and we'll break down each of those and look at the individual courses in just a moment. But there are three large areas that are in the master's degree. One of them is the science core, and that is 12 units. And what the 12 units does is it gives an overview of all the major disciplines in RIS plus radiology informatics. One of the beliefs of the faculty is that you can't be a good manager and you can't be a good educator unless you understand the larger discipline, so that you can talk intelligently with people that are in that discipline, or you could talk to students about the disciplines and the types of things you have there. So we have that science-based core that's 12 units. We also have a 12-unit research criteria set up. And what we find there is that these courses help you understand how research is done and why it's important, and it moves practitioners towards evidence-based practice. And finally, what happens is at the very end, there's a research-based capstone project. Now, the nice thing about this particular sequence is there's no thesis in this degree. So you're not going to end up having to write a 150-page document 2 weeks before you graduate. That's just not going to happen. We do have a capstone project. It's involved, but we don't require an actual thesis. The third major area is the track-specific courses. These are the same courses that are in the certificates. It's 12 units. And those two tracks are either RIS Education or RIS Management, and they both include hands-on practicum. So let's have a look at the individual courses and see what they teach you. when we look at the core RIS courses, what we find is you'll take Radiologic and Imaging Sciences 1, and that gives an overview of radiation physics. Some people who are in the program are sonographers, and some are MRI technologists who have never had any kind of radiation background. And conversely, many of the people that come out of radiography and nuclear medicine radiation therapy know little or nothing about MRI or about sonography. So we start out with radiation physics and an overview of radiography in that first course. In the second, Radiologic and Imaging Sciences 2, then we cover nuclear medicine, PET, MRI, and all the radiation therapy disciplines. And in the final course, we cover computed tomography and sonography in some depth. And finally, there is a course on informatics in RIS. You guys probably have figured out that essentially everything we do is all about the computer system. It just happens to have some kind of a machine attached to the end that either does sound waves or radiation detection or whatever, but it's all about the computer system. So the informatics course is to help you as a student understand how all this fits together and how the health information system works, how the electronic medical works, how PACS works, how the AIs are being used, and also about all the security issues that we now face, which are pretty significant ones. One of the things you have to understand about this core stuff is that we do not want to train you or teach you how to be something that you're not. We just want to make sure that you're conversant so that you can talk to other professionals intelligently. When we look at the research courses, the courses that you'll take are the research methods and statistical analysis. And that basically is a course about how does research work? You know, how do we put research together? What do we do with it? Then there's a course called directed reading, and that is how to use research so that you can move towards evidence-based practice in what you do, either as a manager, as an educator, or as a clinician. Then we have a course on directed research, and that course is how do you actually do research? And finally, we have the capstone course, which I mentioned before, and that course is focused on writing up and publishing research findings. And so the idea behind this whole process is so that you can read the literature and be evidence-based in your practice. And then when you start moving into being a leader of the profession, then you're able to actually start publishing things that help improve the profession. And we have the two tracks, the education track, the management track. When we look at the education track, there are 12 units in that one. And the first is pedagogy and andragogy. And pedagogy is the science of teaching children and general education. And andragogy is the science of teaching adults. So what that course does is it helps individuals understand what do we know about how teaching works well and what makes it not work well. There's also a course on academic program administration. And in that course, we teach such skills as academic budgets, faculty HR, including hiring, promotion. We look at evaluations. We look at tenure and promotion processes, and we look at outcome assessments as an example. Then we have a course on academic program accreditation. And basically that is how to get an educational program accredited and keep it accredited. And when the accreditation process is done properly, it really is a continuous quality improvement process. And that's what it should be. And that's what we help you understand. And finally, there is an educational practicum, hands-on internship. And as an example, right now I have students that are doing course development. I have one student who's helping a faculty member develop a brand new course. I have another student who is helping a department develop a program assessment tool. And I have another student who is actually helping a department write their accreditation self-study, which turns out to be quite useful for them. And so that's the practicum ideas, some of the ideas. We have all kinds of others. So let us look at now the management track. In the management track, the first course is Radiologic Management 1, and that's the science of management. And in the science of management, we cover such things as budgeting, human resources, evaluation, outcomes assessment. Note that the skills that we're teaching in that course are very similar to the skills that we're teaching in the academic management course, because basically management skills are management skills. It's just that one is done in one type of environment and the other is done in another type of environment. Then we have, of course, Radiologic Management 2, which is about organizational leadership. And what that is that's a course on how do you grow yourself to become a leader, what works, and how do you move into being that leader and leading the profession in the future. Then there's a course on clinical program accreditations, and that's where you will learn how to get a CT facility accredited or a sonography facility accredited or an MRI facility accredited. Because as those of you who know anything about management know that if your facility doesn't have accreditation, you don't get reimbursed for your work and you go out of business. So accreditation is really important, and we give you the tools to know how to do it and do it well. And then finally, there is a management practicum in leadership and management also. And some of the examples that we have on what works is that we have one student who is doing a study in a hospital about referring physician satisfaction with radiology services, because they're finding that they're hearing that the referring physicians are not happy, but they don't quite know what the problem is. So this graduate student is working with the management in the facility to develop a study to figure out what they need to do to better satisfy the needs of the referring physicians, because if they don't refer, we've got a problem on our hands. We also have a student who's doing a practicum where they're actually helping to design and install a brand new CT unit in a facility. So it goes all the way back to facility design, purchasing, and the whole 10 yards. It's quite an interesting practicum. It's pretty amazing, actually. We also have students who is doing a leadership project, and that has gone so well that actually the person that she's been working with in one of the organizations has asked her to actually co-author an article with that person about what they're doing in this leadership project because it's been so successful. And finally, another example is we have one other student who's doing a quality management project for another facility, trying to make sure that we have continuous quality improvement. So that'll give you some idea of the types of courses that we're seeing in the management track. The graduate requirements are both simple and difficult. The first requirement is you have to have 36 semester units required to graduate. You can transfer in up to 9 units. Now, if you decide that you want to do the certificate and later on you want to come back and do the master's degree, the certificate is 12 units and you can only transfer in 9 of those 12 units, and you would have to do an individual study course to pick up the additional 3 hours. So there is that. You also have to meet all the major requirements, such as maintaining the proper GPA and taking all the right courses and stuff like that. And finally, there's a thing called the Graduate Writing Assessment. And that actually is something that is on hiatus right now because of COVID-19. And we don't expect that will be back on as a requirement for about at least another year. But the GWAR, as it is called, can be met one of two ways. There's either a writing test that you can take, or if you would prefer, you can go back and take an upper division, lower writing course that's at the 300 or 400 level. But those are the graduate requirements. A key element is, how much is it going to cost me? Actually, it's $400 per unit or $1,200 per course. Now, what that works out to is that if you do the master's degree, because there's 12 units, it works out to $14,400 for the tuition and about $600 for books, or in other words, about $15,000 for the entire degree. If you do the certificate, it works out to about $5,200 for the entire degree. To put some perspective on that cost, if you look at the national average for master's degrees, the national average is about $26,000 for a degree. So this is about half the cost of what the typical master's degree costs, and it's about 1/3 the cost of many high demand degrees like MBAs and things like that out there. So why is the tuition so relatively inexpensive? Because we, the faculty, really wanted to do this degree as a service to the profession. We weren't doing it as a profit-making activity. We were just doing it as a service. And I want to remind people that all this information I'm telling you right now about the cost and the degree requirements are in the information kit that you're going to receive or have received. And, please do look at that. And just to remind people, the master's degree takes 36 units to complete, and the certificate takes 12 units to complete. A question that we get frequently is about financial assistance. And there is some financial assistance available for a program like this. One of them is there's a distance learning aid, and there's a URL on that is in the information packet that will help you find those types of resources and stuff like that. There are scholarships, and the place that we primarily see scholarships are from our professional societies, such as the ASRT, the ARDMS, the SDM, the ART, and ASTRO. So these are organizations that almost all of them have scholarship for people going back for graduate work, and you really need to do that. Plus, there's a web page that, again, the URL is in the packet, and there's other scholarships that you may be eligible for. Finally, there are private student loans, and the private student loans are available through Sallie Mae, and that's just salliemay.com. It's the same people that do house loans and stuff like that, but they do student loans. So those are the areas where we typically see students getting financial aid. There are deadlines that are absolute strict deadlines. Because this is a process that's run by the California State University system. We have no control over overriding them, so please pay attention to the deadlines. If you're looking at a fall start, the applications are available from October 1st through July 15th. If you try to apply on the 16th of July, it will not let you. If you apply, all the documentation has to be in and to us by August 1st. And basically what that amounts to is that you have to give us proof that you've got a license in one of the RIS disciplines, and you have to submit transcripts to Dominguez Hills for evaluation. If you're in, and by the way, in the fall, we both start the master's degree and part-time certificate students. The certificate program is not full-time. It does take 2 to 2.5 semesters to complete it. And we do have a start in the spring for the certificate. Those applications are available from August 1st through November 15th. all of the information has to be submitted, all the documentation by November 30th. We do not have a summer start. So we won't start any classes in the summer at all. When you go to apply, you're going to be dealing with CalState Apply, and it's a fairly complicated but not complicated system. I know that sounds a bit weird, but anyway, there's just a lot of screens. And if what you have to pay attention to is that when you first go on the web page, at the very bottom, it's going to ask you, what term are you interested in applying for? And then it's going to ask you whether you're applying for graduate or undergraduate type of stuff. And then once you tell it that, then that's the image that's on the left of the screen. On the right of the screen, you'll come to a place where you can log in if you have been there before, or you actually create an account. And you're going to go through a lot of different screens. It's going to ask you a lot of questions. That's information that the state has to have to process your application. But and it takes a while, and they are going to ask for some documentation, but it's basically stuff that you know off the top of your head. So that's how you get started. Now, once you have worked all the way through the application, then what's going to happen is you're going to be put into the system, and at the very top, there's going to be a tab that says Add Programs. And you can see a screenshot of it on the left-hand side right now. And if you type in RID for Radiologic, what'll happen is that it will pull up 3 items for you, and that's what the call out is there. You can see that the 3 of them are the Radiologic and Imaging Sciences, the MS degree. You have to pay attention to that part. That's the degree. Or you have the Radiologic and Imaging Sciences education option. That's a certificate. That is not the degree. Or you have Radiologic and Imaging Sciences management option. Again, that's a certificate, not the degree. Again, refer to the information kit, and in there is a link to a little video that gives you step-by-step on how to apply and where to apply and what to fill out. Because this is an online degree, you have to have online access. So what you have to do is, at a minimum, you have to have at least an okay computer, and you have to have reliable internet access. And so those are required. Then also what you'll do is that once you're admitted, then the university will send you an email saying you've been admitted, and here is your information on how to access Blackboard, which is the learning management system we use, Zoom, the Toro Mail, which is actually just it's a version of Gmail, but for the university, for virtual labs. And then there's a link, which is just my.csudh.edu. And what that does is that takes you to a place where you register for classes, you check your grades, you do course evaluations and things like that, and you look at your graduation requirements. And that email is issued by the university after you've been admitted. Also, what will happen is that you'll have access to our learning management system, which is Blackboard, and you'll have to deal with that, and you'll also have to deal with Zoom. Blackboard can be reached by Toro, because we are the Toros, the Bulls, .csudh.edu. All RIS courses utilize Blackboard management system and or Zoom. And you have to be able to participate in the online classes, and that will be through Blackboard. And then we do have some Zoom video conferencing things that are optional. There are a couple that are required, but it's just a couple in the entire program. It's just a few hours here and there. And if you're not familiar with learning management system or how to use that, or Blackboard or Zoom, the university has a ton of really good technology training videos, very short, very to the point, and they'll help you get up to speed very quickly. So that's the requirements that you have to have for online access. So let's talk about real life students and how this affects them. Why do students come into this program? Well, the biggest single reason is opportunities. What this program does is it improves your skill set, and it is a stepping stone to a leadership position, either on the management side or on the education side. This is one of our students who is in the education side, and based on the fact that she was in the program and some of the things that she learned in the program, she was offered an interview for a faculty position in sonography. Now, I have to explain in higher education, when you get to an interview, that's significant because they might get 50 or 60 applications. They'll invite maybe 2 people in or 3 people in for an interview. And based on the fact that she was in the master's and the experiences that she had, she was confident, she was poised, she went in there and she did the interviews and it went quite well. So also, the other thing is that you have to understand that students feel very connected in this program because you will spend a lot of time with the other students in this program and with the faculty, either discussing stuff via email, with discussion boards, occasionally phone calls, occasionally Zoom meetings when it's necessary. So opportunity is a big one. We also think that we have a very good curriculum. It is a very rigorous curriculum. It's not something you just waltz through. You're going to have to really work to get through this program, just like you would any good master's degree program. This student is the one who has been asked to co-author the article with a manager. And she's a full-time working radiographer, and yet she really feels like she's grown academically and professionally and personally through the program because of the types of experiences we have and the type of information that she gets and the kinds of expectations the faculty have. It really helps the students in the program grow professionally. And by the way, the program itself is accredited through WASC, which is the regional accreditor for the university system. And the last thing that students will tell you is that this program has real life applications. And this particular individual was teaching part-time in an educational program and came into the master's. And what he found out was that there were so many much better ways to teach. And he didn't really know anything about how to be a really good teacher. He was just doing what he had seen done to him as a teacher. And I've talked to other students that have had him and they think he's a great teacher, but we've given him skills so that he could even become a better teacher than that. And that's one of the nice things about this program is that you get information in the classroom this week and you apply it in your work next week, and then you leverage that to become a leader in the profession. I'd like to thank you very much for being here this evening. There's information where I can be reached. An email address is ris@csudh.edu. There's information in the kit on how to get to our information pages and how to reach me. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the future. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tilson. That was an extraordinary presentation, and there was a lot of information given. So if you have questions about what you've just heard, please put your questions in the Q&A. And while you're doing that, we're going to be putting up a short poll just about your intentions for the program, whether they are for the master's or certificate, or whether for management or education. So if you could please just fill that out. That'll help us in the design of the program in the future. So we've had a couple of questions come in so far. And the first one, Dr. Tilson, is how do students get placed into the internship programs?
That's a very good question. What we do with the internships, because everybody's situation is different, is we ask the students, what are you interested in doing? What kinds of skill sets do you want to develop? And then we ask them, where in your local environment, because we have students that are in California, we have students in Tennessee, we have students in a number of locations other than the LA area. We ask them, what type of access do you have to people like that? And we help them figure out where they can do their practicums. And so we have never had a problem with a student not being able to get a practicum. It's really a partnership between what the student wants, what the student knows in terms of the local environment, and then our assistance in helping them find it.
Great. Okay. And then next question is, do students have to complete the program in a year, or can they take a slower pace?
Yes, they can take a slower pace. If you want to do the program as quickly as possible, then you would go full time. If you want to stretch that out to a 2-year program and only go half time, that's perfectly acceptable. And you don't even have to tell us that up front. What you do is when you register for classes originally, or once you're admitted originally, I mean to say, you let us know that you want to go part-time. We will develop a part-time schedule for you and send it to you. And you can take 2 years or even longer if you want to.
Okay. Next question. Let's see. Is there only a fall intake for the program? Can you only apply for the fall for the master's degree?
Yes.
Okay.
The master's degree only admits in this fall, because we try to keep students in a cohort as much as possible. So because you build these professional relationships there. And now if you're a part-time student, what you end up doing is building relationships in 2 cohorts. But yes, we only admit students in the fall.
Okay. Let's see. Somebody else is asking, is there any difference in cost between full-time and part-time? And on a per unit basis, no, you're still doing the 36 units.
Correct.
over time. So, okay. And then let's see, those have been answered. So let me ask a few others here. Will I be able to sit for any advanced clinical boards after completing the master's degree?
No. What you're going to do is that we are not an entry-level program or an advanced practice program. We are here to produce the leaders of the profession for in the future. And right now, there is no boards for that particular aspect. So if you're interested in, as an example, the leadership and management, if you went to an employer and said, look, I have a master's degree and look at all these skills that I learned in the master's in management, and the same with education, you would go to them and say, I have a master's degree and I have all these skills. That's how it opens doors for you.
Okay, great. Somebody's asking when the courses actually begin. Is it early August, late August? When is it?
August, usually around the 17th or the 18th of August, give or take a couple days. We haven't quite nailed that down yet, but it's about the 18th of August.
Okay. And just to remind everybody, the application deadline is July 15th, with the materials deadline being August 1st for the fall. Another question is, when are the weekly synchronous classes?
We actually poll the students and find out what works best for them.
Got it. Okay. A few other questions here. I'm not licensed in the state of California. Am I still eligible for the master's degree?
As long as you have a national certification in one of the RIS disciplines, yes.
Okay. And then taking this a bit wider, if somebody has a certification or license from an agency that's not in the US, would they be eligible for the master's degree?
Yes. So as an example, if you are from Saudi Arabia, as an example, and you had a degree from Saudi Arabia and you were licensed in Saudi Arabia, it would make you eligible.
Okay. Let's see. Question, is there coursework related to regulatory or business related issues in the field?
Perhaps not the way the question's been asked, no, but yes, there is information. So when we talk about accreditation and we talk about all the things that are required for accreditation, both on the management side and the education side, those really address all the regulatory and legal issues that we have to pay attention to. So it's in there, but we don't have a specific course that looks just at that, no.
Got it. Okay. Continuing along the certification license questions, what if their certification or license has expired? Can they still do the master's?
No, they need to reactivate their certification.
Okay. Let's see. Somebody would like to confirm that the GRE is not one of the admissions requirements.
Nope.
Correct?
No, there are no admission tests whatsoever. Well, actually there is. It's called the National Board Certification Examination.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, a couple more have come in here. Okay, the question is, as a full-time employee and trying to sneak in a master's degree after hours, is there a way to see examples of what others have done in their local area to complete the hands-on portion?
Well, the hands-on portion is that one practicum. That's the only hands-on part that there is. And we have students that they're all over the map on how they do that. The student who is doing the article with the individual, because they're actually in 2 different cities, as it turned out, they did everything online and they have been Zooming and having Zoom sessions to do it. Whereas the person who is actually doing the physician satisfaction survey, they have to be in the hospital because they have to be able to pull that out. And what we do is that we work with the student and we work with the facilities that they want to do practicums in to set up a practicum that makes sense for the student. So unlike entry level where we say, you will do clinic on these days at these hours, that's not how this works. You do the practicum at a time and a place that works for you.
Do people often do the practicum at their place of employment, or is it usually somewhere else?
Frequently. I'd say it's about maybe 60% of the people do it where they're at. And our experience has been that usually the facilities are extremely happy to have them there as a practicum because they recognize we've got somebody who we need to develop and they want to keep them there.
Got it. Okay. All right, let's see if we've got any others here. No, I think we've covered a good deal of the questions here. Here's the results of our poll. Looks like most people are interested in the master's degree, and of those, half of them are interested in the education track, about 20% in the management track, and 30% are unsure.
Well, I'll make an observation, if I may, from experience. We, in a previous master's that I ran, which looks very similar to this one, actually, what we found was about a quarter of the people that did the management track ended up going into education. And between a quarter and a third of the people that did the education track ended up going into management, and the skill sets transferred very easily. So if you're not sure, go to whichever one you're most interested in. The skills are very transferable.
Very good. Okay. So without any other questions, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. The next steps, if you're interested in the program, would be to go to CalState Apply, and that address is www.cal.state www.calstate.edu/apply. And if you have any further questions about your particular circumstances in terms of your background, your licensing and so forth, or if you have questions about the application process, you can email us at ris@csudh.edu. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have along those lines. And we would like to get your feedback again on this webinar. The feedback survey is at bit.ly/CSUDH-webinar-feedback. So this concludes our program for this evening. And again, feel free to connect with us on our website or on Facebook. We'll stay in the session for a few minutes so that you can jot down any notes or download any resources from the chat so that you can be all set to go. And again, we're available on email and by phone if you've got any questions after the webinar. Thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to seeing you in class.
All set.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Oh, hold up.